our consciousness expands as we add new perspectives to it, and as we deepen those perspectives, and as we grow together within them. Part of being in a conscious relationship means being able to see each other's blind spots and share them with each other, and both of us sort of deepen our awareness of ourselves together, and then also our relationship through it. Having conscious relationships isn't an achievement to be unlocked. It is a practice. It is a journey. It is a ever ongoing symphony. Hello, and welcome back to the Experience of We. I'm Naomi.
And I'm Matthew.
And we wanted to talk to you a bit about conscious relationships. And by conscious relationships, we don't just mean romantic relationships, we mean having relationships consciously. And we're going to talk a bit about what we mean by that. And I think one of the reasons we wanted to bring it up is, as we established sort of at the beginning in our context videos, is that we are in the process of building a relationship with you. We are in the process of building a relationship with you, our companion who is viewing us, based on the feedback you give us. We're impacting each other, and we want to go about impacting each other consciously.
Yeah. And so to sort of set a ground level expectation, I guess, we should mention that no one can be completely conscious by themselves. No relationship can be fully conscious on its own. The fact is, human beings track a lot more unconsciously than we do consciously. Our conscious workspace is actually very small relative to how much information that we're taking in. And so a lot of what we know and feel never shows up in our conscious awareness.
Right. It never shows up in what we're explicitly aware of or could articulate.
And so the sort of purpose of a conscious relationship from our perspective is that we can collaborate to start bringing things that don't normally enter our conscious awareness into our conscious awareness together. And so, for instance, if I notice an unconscious pattern that Naomi is expressing, then I can name it.
Yeah, we are all at any given time doing many, many things that we're not fully aware of. It's not just that we are taking in more sensory data from our environment than we're aware of. We're also reacting, responding, orienting rapidly on a micro scale. And we can only be aware of a certain portion of it, as we're saying. And so, yeah, part of being in a conscious relationship means being able to see each other's blind spots and share them with each other, and both of us sort of deepen our awareness of ourselves together, and then also our relationship through it. Being able to notice feelings that help us track patterns in our relationship that we might not be aware of otherwise.
Yeah, and I think the step one for anyone who wants to be in a conscious relationship is to accept the fact that we as individuals cannot be conscious of everything all the time. And some things we can't be conscious of unless someone else brings it to our awareness. And so we think that there is an extent to which we all need to come into acceptance of our own limitations in order to be a part of a conscious relationship, because accepting that you can't be conscious of everything and that you need partners and friends and family to bring your awareness to things that you're not aware of, that is one of the, I guess, principles of being in a conscious relationship, is realizing the limits of your own conscious awareness and the fact that the people in your life can bring things to your awareness that you're not aware of.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. And then a lot of the practice in relationship becomes how to receive those things, how to talk about them, how to sense make them together, how to integrate them together.
An example, an unconscious pattern that you, Naomi, brought into our relationship was looking for permission and approval when you didn't need to.
Yeah.
This is still a pattern that shows up in our relationship, where Naomi will say something, like sort of make a statement, but in it is a sort of unconscious appeal for my approval
Yes.
or my permission to do
yes.
something, and then a kind of waiting to see how I react to the thing that you bring me, to see if I'm going to show some sign of approval or not.
Exactly. And recently we've been working on the stage of development with it where I notice when I'm doing that and I say I want approval. I'm looking for approval. Either way, the next step will be realizing that Matthew is generally in approval of me. But I'm not there yet. So yeah, that is an example of a pattern that I was conditioned into by my formative relationships and authoritarian environment and things like that. And now expresses with Matthew 10 years in.
Yeah. I think, and I want to, I guess, give some texture to the authoritarian environment.
Yeah.
No, it's okay. It's okay. I see Naomi's worried. So right now there is a lot of threat in the world about authoritarian governments. That's real and something to be discussed, maybe not here, maybe not by us. But I think, Naomi, by authoritarian environment, what you mean is oftentimes we are put in the position of needing to seek approval in our, like at least in American society. We'll talk about American society. You start off as a child in school, and oftentimes you have to seek approval of your teachers, maybe your principals.
Yeah, I mean, when authoritarian came up for me, the thing that I was remembering is being conditioned to ask permission to go to the bathroom.
Right, you don't get to go to the bathroom without explicit permission.
Exactly, which is pragmatic if you have a classroom of 30 children, but also conditions in a weird permissioning to my own bodily functions.
Yeah, exactly. And so it seems like one of the ways that our society has adapted to a really large population is seemingly having more people who need guidance than there are people to give guidance. And so using the school example, and it's an easy example, a classroom of one teacher to 30 students, give or take, is in sort of American industrialized schooling. There are always a vaster number of students to teachers. And so if you have 30 children who need guidance from one person, the best they can do is try to make rules that govern the rest of the class if they're working with one student, or maybe they just have to try to work with everyone at once, which doesn't really give a lot of personal experience. And so we seem to, at least in American society, be taught to follow rules most of the time. And so there always is authority. Street signs are an authority. Speed limits are an authority. There's a lot of implicit, I guess, authority. You're not supposed to throw a brick through someone's window. That I'm not arguing that we should be able to.
Or we should be able to ridiculously speed. We're arguing for the fact that there need to be these rules in place of having a social contract where we all know each other and accountability is immediate because everyone can see everything.
Yeah.
Which is what we evolved for. And I have a feeling of wanting to bring this back into the realm of
sure thing.
Conscious relationships. So yeah, conscious relationshiping involves accepting that we can't perceive everything, that we can't be directly aware of everything we do perceive, that other people will see things we don't, creating a safe environment for those things to be shared and received. Another aspect of conscious relationships is that we can start to have a more bird's eye view of the relationship over time. We can start to see those incremental progressions where someone we know goes from being someone we know to someone we're friendly with, to a friend. Or when someone we're dating goes from someone we're enjoying spending time with to someone we have something a lot more serious with. And we can start to see those increments as they happen, rather than finding ourselves waist deep in a relationship that we don't exactly know how we got into.
Right. Because there seems to be this pattern where, because having a conscious relationship also means honestly disclosing things to the people that you are in a relationship with so that they can be conscious of it. And so when we begin a relationship, it's a blank slate. We know almost nothing about the person other than their appearance, and maybe some social details. But as we start getting to know someone, we become increasingly conscious of the things that they share and the ways that they express. And sometimes in relationships, we can go from being very open and vulnerable and authentic to taking some relational wounds in the relationship. We talked about this in another video. And then suddenly you start sharing less and less. And so a relationship can become more conscious, right? As I share things with the person I'm in a relationship with, they're learning about me and the things that I think. The relationship is becoming more conscious. And then if I start hitting limits to the relationship, limits on safety, now I start maybe withholding things. Maybe I share less and less. And now the relationship is becoming less conscious of itself.
Right. There's less awareness available in the relationship. And so, yeah, that's a really good point too, Matthew, is that conscious relationships happen on a spectrum. They are the consciousness, the awareness, the shared awareness is made of individual instances of sharing awareness, and how we share that awareness.
Right. And so if I injure myself playing basketball, not something that has happened much in my relationship with Naomi, but I have a previous marriage. And I would sometimes suffer significant injuries playing basketball that I would withhold from my previous partner because she was worried that I would injure myself in basketball, and then be in a lot of pain and be limited in certain ways. And that ended up happening as she feared. And so I withheld those facts from her. I withheld my pain from her, and made her therefore unconscious of my pain. And the relationship then therefore does not have this shared awareness, this shared consciousness of the injuries that I took. And in fact, ironically, there was a night that I gave Naomi her engagement ring.
Oh, yes.
And I had normalized the pattern of withholding physical injuries from my previous partner.
Exactly. And so we get together this beautiful Halloween evening out in a park, and Matthew gets down on one knee to give me the ring, and he's grimacing, and he looks like he's in pain. And I'm like, I believe that Matthew really wants to be engaged with me, but also, what's wrong right now? Why is Matthew grimacing while giving me my engagement ring? And I asked him later on in the evening, and
I didn't even know I grimaced.
Yeah, right.
So I was unconscious of the grimacing, and Naomi was unconscious of the cause of the grimacing.
Right, which was his knees.
Right.
A lot of basketball.
Yeah, I think my knee and my back might have also been hurting. So I had this kind of dual pain that I grimaced through because I had normalized not disclosing honestly about physical pain I was suffering from a previous partner. And now Naomi has inherited this unconscious pattern of withholding things, which makes her unconscious of it. And then our relationship is not conscious of it together.
And then we can't be responsive to the pattern. In this case, collaborate to find a healthy relationship with basketball that's sustainable over time.
Which I had avoided
Yeah.
in my previous relationship. And so this is an example of ways in which our relationships are unconscious to certain patterns of our behavior. One of us, if only one of us is aware of something, and maybe even only partially aware, because I had so normalized withholding injuries that it didn't even occur to me to share them with you. And so if I am conscious of something but am not sharing it with Naomi, then the relationship is not conscious of that thing. And so conscious relationships mean that we take the steps necessary to honestly disclose all of the pertinent things that we're aware of, even things that aren't necessarily, maybe things that don't seem to matter, might matter later. And so a more or less conscious relationship is relative to how much we fully and honestly disclose with the people that we are in a relationship with. And again, this isn't just romantic relationships, this is friendships too. I would say that I withhold more in my friendships than I withhold from you.
Yeah, definitely. Me too. Yeah. And this is how friendship can seem so alive sometimes and so deadened others. Is that we end up withholding bits of our awareness about ourselves and each other to preserve the relationship. And then that unpreserves it.
Right. Because without shared awareness, it is really hard for us if you are in a relationship with someone, that includes making decisions, living life together in some meaningful way. And if you don't have a shared awareness of all the things that you are thinking and feeling, or at least certainly the really important ones, then it's hard to coordinate decisions. It's hard to give care. Naomi and I have both at times withheld that we needed care from each other when the other one was ready to give care.
Yeah.
You have been really reluctant to receive care. And so you have withheld your need for care from me a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, that is totally accurate. Something that I'm working on. He's very good at giving massages, by the way. Really, really good at body work. I've been leaning into asking for care that way recently.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, because you had aches and pains in your body. You too, right?
Yeah.
And then you learn to disclose, there's a pain in my shoulder or there's a pain in my lower back. And then that makes me conscious of your need for care. And that happens to be a kind of care that I can offer. Now, not everyone can give their partner a massage or has that ability.
Right. And we're talking about that right now in terms of our relationship. But again, we want to be very clear that when we talk about conscious relationships, we're also talking about friendships. We're also talking about relationships where maybe intimate touch isn't the thing that's happening. But maybe something emotional is happening. I've encountered so much in my personal life and talking to other people, the experience of someone that we're in a relationship with going through something challenging and not knowing how to care for them, them not asking for care.
Yeah. And sometimes, that comes out, not knowing how to ask for care, sometimes comes out in the form of complaining.
Yeah.
And sometimes we might feel annoyed at a friend who seems to complain a lot. And that might be a problem, right? That might be something worth talking about too, right? Making them conscious of your discomfort with the amount of complaining is a way to share awareness in a relationship. And also, if someone is consistently sharing complaints, those are stress signals. Those are signals that they might need some care. They might need affirmation. They might need someone to talk to about whatever it is that's coming up for them. And so I think some of us, like I know that I've heard friends and people complain about things and not asked, maybe because I was scared to ask, maybe I was afraid of what I would uncover, but that's also a form of encouraging unconsciousness in the relationship.
Right. And so, one thing that we want to name here is that developing conscious relationships isn't easy. It even with the most well-meaning of relational companions, if we talk about the things that are in each other's blind spot, eventually we're going to hit a tender spot. Eventually, we're going to hit somewhere where we have a trigger that expresses in some way.
Yeah.
And trying to make existing relationships that don't bring that kind of awareness, into shared sort of a shared sense making of what's happening. Bringing relationships into that is an incremental process. It takes time, it takes effort, it's vulnerable. It can go in a way where we feel less safe and less close to that person as we're doing it.
Yeah.
And so we extol the virtues of conscious relationships. And also, it's hard and it's scary. And we find things out about our relationships by bringing things that are not in our shared awareness into awareness. And so, how to go about making a existing relationship or a new one, making it into one where that's conscious, that is along the consciousness spectrum, and increasingly along the consciousness spectrum. Like ours has deepened, our shared consciousness of our relationship and ourselves and the world has deepened over time. And so, bringing relationships there is challenging and complex, and honestly, there are a lot of videos we can and will make about it. The experience of we is a system for making conscious relationships, for making relationships where we can all be aware of the same things together and choose our trajectory together based on it.
Yeah. And something that we want to really stress, really stress as we talk about conscious relationships, because there's a lot. The consciousness, you might have noticed, is a big subject out there in the world, from the spiritual side to the metaphysical side to the actual physics side
To the AI side.
The AI side. And so we want to be clear that there is no fully conscious that we're claiming that we have become or that people can become. There is no final pure consciousness to be reached as an end point. There is an incremental progression of becoming increasingly conscious together in this way that I hope that Naomi and I will be able to spend the rest of our lives together. I really do. And I believe that we will be becoming increasingly conscious together that whole time, that we're not going to reach some final destination, that there even could be in a relational experience where each of us is having continuous sensation, continuously learning things. We'll be learning things even as we die. We'll be learning what it's like to die, right to the last moment. And so we'll always be coming into awareness of new things.
Yeah. And both like within ourselves and within our relationship, but also as a relationship, every person holds a unique perspective of what's true. Every person has something that they're aware of that we're not, because we're all having unique embodied experiences.
Right.
And so our consciousness expands as we add new perspectives to it, and as we deepen those perspectives, and as we grow together within them. And so, adding relationships to this level of sharing of what we're truly aware of is one of the ways that we really continue increasing over time, and is an illustration of what Matthew's saying, that consciousness seems to be an infinite journey, an infinite spectrum. And so, having conscious relationships isn't an achievement to be unlocked. It is a practice. It is a journey. It is a ever ongoing symphony.
An infinite game.
An infinite game.
An infinite game. Yeah.
Well, I feel like infinite games are their own concept to be gone into in another video. So I'm feeling like this is about wrap up time. How about you?
Yeah, I agree. I feel complete.
All right. Well, we are grateful to be taking this journey of conscious relationshiping with you. We appreciate your time and we look forward to seeing you next time.
Bye for now.
Bye.